Hello and welcome to the OMC video blog number 9. My name is Garv, your host, and today we're going to get into a topic that I guess means a lot to kind of how we've been doing things recently. And so I kind of want to take a moment and just kind of talk about that because, it's something that we talk about a lot, and as developers, we give it lip service. But sometimes we don't follow our own advice, and so therefore today I thought maybe I'd get into that a little bit and talk a little bit about where that is, where we're going and what that is and all that. And that has a lot to do with choosing your first project. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter whether you're making games, doesn't matter whether you're building a table, doesn't matter whether you're building a house or making a movie or writing a book or whatever that is. Your first project, the first thing that you decide that you're going to do and release to the world is an important thing. It's like a milestone in your growth, that thing that you finished and you went, wow, I finished it. It's good. It's great. And so, it's tough to decide. So we're going to talk about that today. But before we get in that, we got a little bit of housekeeping to do. And I just want to get a little bit into kind of where we've been going recently. The first thing is we are going to release our first project, and that's going to be the Python minimap. It's going to be on the Unity Asset Store. So if you need a mini-map for your game and you're trying to find one that's going to work for you, give this one a try. It may fit in your project well. The main idea behind that is because over the course of the years of making Skullforge, I have purchased maybe 3 or 4 mini-map assets, and all of them were bad. All of them just didn't fit in my project right, and and don't get me wrong, I don't want to say something too negative about what they made or why they did what they did, that kind of thing. It just did not fit in my project, and that's a problem. In the end I couldn't use them, so I wasted a lot of money on stuff that I ultimately didn't use. And I started thinking about, well, why couldn't I use them? Like, what was the reason why I couldn't use them? And there were all these reasons as to why they wouldn't do. A lot of times it was the support, like I couldn't get it to do the thing, and so I emailed the person and they never responded back. Or they did, like 2 weeks later, or one guy, he kept saying, yeah, I'm gonna do an update. And we waited, and finally he just never did it. So, that kind of stuff. You got things like that, and so I just thought, what, I can do this better, I think. It's not for everybody because, everybody's needs are different, but give it a shot. It should be available tomorrow, or if you're watching this tomorrow, then it should be available now. We'll do some videos and stuff about how to get it to work and all that stuff, but, that's something that we, can discuss later. But keep a lookout for it. It's cheap, too. The other thing is we are working on another project. Before you go, oh my God, yeah, I could just feel that, that energy. That is the main reason why this video exists today. Because, and I guess, let me just start with the topic at hand, which is, if you are deciding to make your own thing, whatever that is, whatever it is that you decide that you're going to make, you got to take some things into consideration. First thing that you need to look at is, what is the scope of the thing that you're trying to make? How big do you want it to be? What kind of systems do you want, in there? what engineer you're gonna use, you know, all those little things that you think about, but maybe you don't realize exactly how important those things are, because they build up over time. You know, you start with this small thing like, oh, it's only this, like, oh, it's only this problem, or it's only this thing. So therefore, I don't need to worry about it because it's only that, and we can deal with that. Until you've got only this, and only that, and only this, and only that, and only this, and only that. And next thing you know, you've got a bunch of only things that are like a list that's a mile long, and you're going, holy crap, man, I can't deal with that. And so your scope is important. You know, what you're trying to accomplish, where you're trying to go, and what you want to do. And then next that you need to look at, once you decide, like, this is where we're going to go, we're going to head in that direction, this is kind of the things we want in the project or how we want the project to work, then you need to evaluate, like, what your team is. Can you even get more people on your team? Like, are you a team of 2? And you want to add an extra person? Can you afford to add that extra person? You know, with the scope that you have, can you do anything with the team that you have? You know, so if you're a group of 2 or a group of 5 or whatever, looking at the skill set of the people on your team, can you actually do the thing that you want to do? And that also comes into into play, where you have to think about, well, what's the skill set of each person on your team? What can they do? Is this a musician? I mean, all right, okay. How diverse is their skill set? Like, can they do different kinds of music? Are they really focused on one kind? Do they only like rock or whatever? Like, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, or you have an artist, all right? Is that person good at drawing people? We need character models or whatever. Can that person do that job? Like, if they can't, then that means that we need somebody who can. And so you got to look at who's on your team, what they are capable of, and then figure out, well, this is our scope, so this is what we're trying to accomplish. This is where we're trying to go. These are the systems we are going to add and have in our game. And then matching your team to the parts that need to get done. If you have if you have a game and your game has a lot of big levels, do you have somebody who can make those levels? Is there somebody who can actually do that? If you look at it and go, okay, well, we don't have anybody who can do that. Okay, well, then we need to get somebody who can. And how much is that going to cost if we're going to get somebody? Maybe you have a friend, maybe they want to jump in, you know, whatever. Maybe you can make some incentives, you know, to get people to join up. But that personnel is just a tricky thing anyway. The other thing is looking at your scope, and when you're looking at what your team can do, sometimes like you run into things, you go, whoa, that's something I hadn't thought about. That person doesn't know how to do that. And so now we need to find somebody who can. The other piece that you gotta look at, once you've decided, okay, this is the scope, this is a team, then you gotta look at, well, how long is it gonna take us to get done? Or how much time are we going to allot to getting this thing done? Are we just gonna go until we get finished, which means it could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be 2, it could be 5, it could be 10, depending on what it is that you're trying to make. And that is one of those things that it's difficult to really know, because sometimes you don't realize what your problems are until you actually get in there and start working on stuff. You know, you think in your mind, you go, okay, I've done this before, so I know about how long it takes to do X. So if we have 2 of those, then it should take about this amount of time in order to get done. But the truth of the matter is, as the saying goes, no plan survives contact with the enemy. And so, you get in there and you go, okay, we thought it was only going to take that time, but it's going to take longer now. Or sometimes maybe it's in your favor. It takes shorter amount of time. But, you never know. And so you got to plan accordingly as to how long things are going to take. Then you got to think about, if you're talking about, well, how long is it going to take? Then you got to start thinking about, okay, well, what are our bills? Like, we have to pay things. You got to pay the people who are working for you. You got to pay your electric bill or whatever. You got to pay your car, your car note. There's all these things that you need to pay for. What about when you need to contract work? Let's say you need an artist. You have no one on your team who can get that done, so you need to hire somebody to get it done. That costs money. Artists don't work for free unless they're your buddy or your, family member or something, right? Then they might do it for free. But generally, that doesn't work. Usually, you're gonna have to pay somebody, and so you got to be thinking, well, how much is it gonna cost in order for me to do that thing? And so, looking at how long it's gonna take means that you got to start thinking about the kind of the things that aren't very fun. You got to start thinking about like budgets and things like that. Those things are fun. I'm not gonna lie to you. I hate thinking about it. I hate even dealing with it. I understand why people hire accountants and whatever to do that job, because it sucks. It's not for me. But hey, some people may like that. But you got to start looking at the bottom line, how much things are going to cost, and how long is it going to take is a big factor in how much things cost. If you're going to spend a year, that's not going to be as expensive as, say, 2 or 3 or 5 or 10. Some games take a long time to get built. Same thing with like a house. Let's say you're going to build a house, then you got to think, well, how long is it going to take? But then you got to worry about weather and all that stuff. Is the weather going to cooperate? Then you got to work with the city. They're going to have to run wires to the house. I mean, they're just, there's all kinds of things. And some of those things are out of your control. And some of them you can control. But, that's just how that goes. So then that leads to, well, can I even do it? Like, you've looked at all the tangibles. You've looked at your scope, you've looked at your team, you've looked at how long you think it's going to take, what your overall experience is, and then you need to answer the question of, can I even do it? Can I even do it? Is it even possible? This is where I think a lot of times people who are trying to come up with something, this is where they make the first mistake. Because you lay everything down and you go, you know what? Bob's good at that. Jack's good at that. Sally, she's good at that. Wendy, she's good at this. I'm good at that. You know what? I think we can do this. We can do this for real. And so, you look at it and think, yeah, we can do this, really. And then you get in there and you realize that you can't do it. I think it's a common thing. If you're making anything, if you've made anything, then you understand that kind of thing happens. It happens a lot, and it's really frustrating, especially when you get started, because generally when you get started, you're starting to see all these things happen. You go, wow, that's amazing. I'm looking at that happening and that happening and that happening, that happening, that happening, and they're all happening. And I'm like, oh my God, it looks so cool. It's great. It's awesome. And you can start to see it come together until you get to the hard parts. The beginning part's, I think, pretty easy. It's easy to get your line to draw across the screen and stuff. I mean, that's easy. It's building something tangible with that. That's the hard part. It's the little details. Do you do nails there? Or, what kind of stats should we give? Those little things. Those things are the things that are the hardest. And they don't crop up until you get in there, until you really get in there. And so, you get in there and you go, yeah, I thought we could do this, but really we can't do this. And that's where, I think it's okay to say we can't do it. when I was younger, I used to think that once you've committed, then you should just commit. You've already committed. You've wasted the time. You've put in the hours. You've spent the money. You should just go ahead and commit. You've already committed, so just go and finish. As I get older, though, I think that sometimes it's okay to say, we can't do it. We can't do it. We need to come up with something else. We need a new plan. Because obviously the plan that we were working with originally is not going to work, and therefore we need to change that into something else. So when you're deciding your first project and you're looking at all of those pieces, it's easy to realize, to start with, I want to make this RPG that you can do this and that and this. I want action. I want big open worlds. I want all that stuff. Like, I want it all. Like, I think we can do it. I've got 5 people on my team. We're all veterans. Like, we all know what's going on. This is gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome. We could get it done in 2 years, tops. Until you actually do it and you realize that you can't do it. It happens a lot. I've seen it happen to tons of developers. There's a guy that contacts me every now and again. And I don't think he's even gotten close to finishing an idea. He'll come in, he'll be like, yeah, man, I want to make a strategy game. And I'm like, okay, cool. And he'll ask me like, well, what do I need to do? And so we talk about it and we go through, I bounce some ideas off and try to help him out. But, he'll start working on that, and then, 3 weeks later, I'll get a message from him, and he's like, yeah, man, you know what? I want to make a, it's like, dude, you haven't decided you haven't made anything. You start working, and you last for like a couple weeks, and then you're done, Because game development's hard. It's hard. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money and effort and whatever. And so, I get it. I used to be there. I'm not going to lie to you. If I went back and I looked at some of my old stuff, I have boxes and boxes of old ideas that I came up with. Some stuff we announced, like some stuff we were like, yeah, we're gonna do this. I've got X person, Y person, and we can do this. We're gonna get in there, we're gonna make it, it's gonna be great. And we never finished it. For a lot of reasons. There are a lot of reasons. But that's the thing. When you're making stuff, reasons happen, right? You don't do things because reasons. That's how it goes. And so you screw it up and you go, man, we really screwed that up, and so now it's all messed up and we've got to give it up. And I feel really, really bad about it because we spent time promoting and talking and that kind of thing, and in the end it's nothing. That's not the case now. I know you're expecting the punchline, which is going to be, we stopped making Skullforge, and it's all. No, that did not happen. That did not happen. We are still working on Skullforge. Skullforge is still coming out. Like, we're still working on it. The only thing we did do, though, is we have actually decided to work on something that's a little smaller in scope. Something that's going to be a lot quicker to produce and release and all that. Because Skullforge, when we first started, I thought, like I said, the scope was small, and I thought, oh, it'd be no problem. It's a small thing. But the truth of the matter is we've been working on it for what, 5 years or so, 5.5 years? And though we've made a lot of progress in those 5 years and something, we only had 2 people working on it, and, you can only do what you can do. And at the rate that we're going, we're still making good progress, but this year is a bust. There's no way we're going to be able to make it this year. So then we started evaluating, well, okay, what can we release in a small amount of time? And so we decided on a little project that we're going to work on. Now, I'm not announcing anything right now. I'm just letting you know that we're working on it. and that we will be releasing a demo later this year that's going to be with the Steam game festival that they have going on in October. I'm looking forward to this actually, because it'll be the first time that we'll have our game out there that somebody can play and stuff. And the idea we have, I think, is pretty cool. It's an interesting take on the cyberpunk genre. And we're gonna make a little series out of it. So, you know, it's something that I personally am really excited about. But the good thing about it is because of Skullforge, I built the backbone for the whole game of Skullforge. And I was able to borrow that backbone and use it in a new project, which means that I don't have to rewrite a bunch of stuff, you know. And that makes making projects, you know, making games like a million times faster. You know, you don't have to rewrite your whole GUI stuff from the bottom. You know, you've already done the work, so you can just move the code over. And if you write your code modularly, which is what I usually do, then you can just bolt it on and boom. And so, yeah, anyway, that's kind of where we're at right now. And so the new project we'll announce as we get closer to October. I think people will think it's really interesting. I like it. I think the idea is cool, and it'll be really cool to see what people think once we actually announce it. I'm not going to do an announcement. I'm just telling you more along the lines, because this is a blog and then we're talking about what's going on. I'm just kind of giving an idea of kind of where we're going and why we're doing whatever. That way I can be a little more transparent about where we're going, and therefore people can understand our motivations behind why we did this thing. It does not mean that Skullforge is dead, because it's not, because I'm still working on it. Not every day these days, but, you know, multiple days a week. I'm still working on it, so none of that stuff's changed. It's just that that extra time that I've been using for working on Skullforge, that extra time now goes towards this other project. And then, of course, a little bit of it goes towards our mini-map, which, you know, hey, check it out. Python mini-map. Anyway, enough rambling. That's it for today. I hope everyone has a good day and a good week. And I'll try to do these a little more often. As a little back piece of this, I bought a new camera so that I can do these in a more comfortable spot. But I'm afraid to use it. I mean, does it sound weird? You know, I'm afraid to use it. So I went back to doing this. As a matter of fact, that's one of the main reasons why I haven't done any videos. Is because, you know, I'm afraid to. I have my camera hooked up and everything. I'm just afraid to use it, and I don't want to screw up. So, you know, I know this way works. So I decided, well, I could keep putting this off, or we can actually do something. So I just decided, okay, I'm just gonna do this. With the setup that I know and the setup that I have going on, I'm just going to do that. So, on that note, thanks a lot for sticking around this whole time. I hope that what I've discussed and talked about was actually interesting for you. Just remember, you know, when you're setting up your first project, man, it's so easy to fall into that trap that, wow, we can do this. But, you know, the reality of it, things are a lot more complicated than you think. And, you know, it's easy to fall in trap. The veterans do it. Everybody does it. You know, it's, you know, sometimes you don't evaluate your own abilities very well, or your comrades, you know, people working with you, your teammates, you know, yeah. Anyway, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. You know, I'm trying to build the channel at least a little bit. So help us out, you know, do us a solid and subscribe, hit the notification bell. And if you have any comments or anything like that, please leave them down below. And we will see you next time. Peace out.